Welcome back, all you future debt-free millionaires. Hey, this is Zach Edwards with another episode of the Debt-Free Millionaire podcast and personal finance course. So as I told you last week, we're actually revamping a little bit. We're changing the book. As we're about to publish, we decided, you know what, there's too many things that have changed, and we wanted to add a little bit more to it. This is just a filler episode. This is week 2, day 4 of this book that we're putting together. And don't worry, we'll have a table of contents on our website so you can actually go through and see exactly when each episode should be listened to as according to the book. So as you're listening to it, you're going to be able to follow along with the book by going to our website and this page, which will be linked in the book as well. So you can actually listen to it there. And we'll be going through a lot more than just this book, but we wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up of where everything is so you can get the right episode when you want it. Okay, so let's go into this one because this is very fascinating. This is basically what's happening with the economy today, okay? When it comes to how much we're spending. So the idea is our expenses continue to grow. They can grow all the time until we have no more money to spend on those expenses. And then what happens is we go into debt. When we go into debt, it means we're going to owe back whoever we owe a lot more money than we would have before, because we're not just paying for that item that we paid one time. If we put it onto a credit card, we're going to be paying on it for the next 10 years. And interest on those payments the whole time. So do we want to do that? So we're not just paying the $10 for, I don't know, what's $10 these days? Okay, let's just say $20 for a pair of, no, you can't even get anything for $20. Okay, how about $50 for a pair of shoes? Because that's about the going rate now, $30 to $50 for a pair of shoes. Yikes. When I was younger, $10. That's right. So again, 20 years ago, $10 get you a nice pair of shoes. Now it's $120 or $200. But a normal pair of shoes, it's about $50. So let's just say $50. You spend $50 on a pair of shoes. Now, you don't have the money to pay it off, or to pay it outright. So you go to your credit card and say, hey, I need to borrow some money. Let's swipe this card and put that debt on my credit card because I'll pay it sometime in the future. Well, the problem is that continues to compile. Every time you buy a piece of clothing, go eat out, go do anything, fill up your tank of gas, that money continues to grow on your credit card until there's no money left. So as you go building up this debt, you can build it up. But what happens when all of a sudden you can't pay, you don't make enough to pay for that credit card? So let's go again, like we were talking about before, your wants and your needs. Okay, what's a want? Oh, sorry, no, let's go with what's a need, because that is what's most important. What's a need? You have your food. That's a need. You have your shelter. That's a need. You need to be able to feed yourself and keep yourself warm at night. What's the next need? Or what's the next thing? Savings. Well, I'd love to call it a need. You need to be doing this, but you might not need to be doing it right now as you're just trying to get on your feet. But at the same time, you do want to put some money in there because you want to get in the routine of putting money towards savings. How about donations? Well, normally it's not a need, it's a want. If you are faith-based, so if your faith tells you should be tithing or giving a portion to the church or giving a portion away in charity, then it's a need, but it's also a want because it doesn't have to happen right away. If you don't have the money, you can't donate. There's no money to donate. But there's an old story, it's actually in the Bible, talks about the widow's mite. Now, all these wealthy people came with all their money and threw all this money towards their donations. And this widow came through. And all she had, what was called a little mite, but which was actually like a penny or even less than a penny. But that's all she could pay. And Christ was asked about this. He said, basically, all those people that had all those monies, they didn't give much. It wasn't that hard of a trial for them. But look at that woman. She didn't have anything to give. And yet she gave what she could. So how much more beneficial was it for her to show her trust in her God to be able to do that little amount? So this being said, if you don't have that much money to give, still give. Because as we talked about last week, that it actually helps you. It benefits you morally, physically, mentally, inside you. It helps you. Even more than it helps the person that you're giving to. Because you might give a penny. A penny's not going to help much when it comes to buying food for someone. It'll help some. But if that's all you can give, your mind will make up all the rest when it comes to the great benefits, or the great the greatness that you get out of it, the endorphins that you get out of it, the chemical reactions that you get out of it, the feeling that you get out of it. All those are amplified because you knew that you gave away all that you could. So when it comes to donations, yes, it is a want, but it is also a need for you spiritually, physically, mentally. Give something away. Continue to give something away, because it gets you in a pattern where you will get to continue to give. And as we said before, this can actually overcome your anxiety, depression, stress. These are all the great benefits that we mentioned last week. Okay, so what are some other things? How about use utilities? Gas, electric, trash. Now, they can't shut you off right away. So it's not I have to do it right now. But it is because you have to keep yourself warm, electricity to where you're staying, and the trash being picked up. Now, those are needs. Those are regular needs that a normal person has. What about loan payback? Well, sorry to say, it's not a want. That is a need. You have guaranteed to them through your signature that you will pay them back. If you don't, the law will come after you and will either destroy your credit, but I mean, if you're not going after credit, who cares? But then they can come after your paycheck. So you definitely want to pay any loans back that you have to pay. How about your insurance? You have health insurance, life insurance, car insurance. Those are all necessities. What happens if all of a sudden you have an accident and you go to the medical room? Are you going to pay that back? Yes, you will be paying that back unless you have insurance, and then your insurance will pay it. So that is a need. It's not a want. Nobody wants to pay insurance. They need to pay insurance because they know what will happen to them. So you want to because you know what will happen, but it's a need because you need to pay it up. Otherwise, you're going to be hurting in the future. Transportation. Okay, so what is a need? A need is to get from point A to point B, to get to your job, to get to the grocery store. Could you take a bus? Yes, you can. That is a need. A car is not a need. Unless your work is in a different place that does not have bus service, then yeah, it could be a need. So weigh these things out. Now, what about entertainment? This is an easy one. Want or need? Entertainment, definitely a want. It's something that you do not need. Should not be spending money on unless you have the money in your pocket, cash money. If you don't have cash money to pay it up, don't get into debt for it, because you're not going to be paying $10 for product X or service X in your entertainment. You're going to be paying $20 to $30 because of all the interest that is accrued on it. And not just on that one time that you went, but add all the other times on there, you're going to be spending thousands of dollars every month or hundreds of dollars, high hundreds, just to pay back all the insurance and the dining out and all those things. What about streaming service or memberships, gyms, or going and doing your going to Costco? Well, those are streaming services. Those are not needs, those are wants. You want to be able to do streaming, but guess what? There are so many streaming services that are for free right now. You don't need Netflix. That is not a need. What about Costco? Sorry, it's not a need because every grocery store is free except for Costco and Sam's Club and maybe a few more. Gym membership. Sorry, there are apps on your phone where you can do a really good workout from the comfort of your own home. You don't need to buy a gym membership. And most people that buy a gym membership, they actually don't usually go to the gym. So these are just some ways of getting out of going and getting into debt. Now, here's the reason why I brought this up. And there's actually two. One is what's happening with the economy right now, and a correction I have with California. Something I gave you, I think, about 3 weeks ago of what was happening with California. Okay, so let's go into something I love talking about because it's the root of most disasters when it comes to finances. It's the credit card. The credit card is built on credit. It's you promising that you're going to pay back somebody and they're willing to give you the money up front, but you're going to have to pay them interest over every month that you still owe them. Visa, MasterCard, billion, even trillion-dollar companies, because they're taking your money, your hard-earned money, because you decided you could not wait for this want and you had to buy something. Now, if it was a need, it's somewhat understandable, but you want to be able to pay back that amount that you put on the credit card as soon as possible. The best thing to do with a credit card is actually to cut it up and get rid of it. Most people won't do that because they want, oh, these are the incentives of doing it. Well, that's a gimmick that the credit card company gives you in order to get you to keep the credit card. So if you want those miles, well, funny enough, with all mileage credit cards, you're paying an annual fee. And that annual fee pays for the mileage that they're going to be giving you. You spend money for the mileage, but you're paying for those mileage through your credit card annual payment. Now, if you go to one that's free, that's fine and dandy, but you're still going to be paying interest. And if you miss a payment, you're paying 20 to 40 bucks on your credit card debt, on your credit card missed payment fee. So there's all these different ways that they rack up more and more and more and more charges until you have less and less and less and less money, until you have no money to spend. Now, the credit card. Some people say it's the greatest invention ever because it allowed you to buy things when you didn't need it. Well, look around the country or look around the world. Most countries don't have these things. Some of them do, but the wealthy have them. The people that don't have that money, they don't have them. Why? Because the creditors don't want their money because they know that they're not going to pay them back. So they're going to come after the people that they think will pay them back. And so by doing that, here's an example from my own experience. I had a credit card. I had a company that was attached to TikTok, the company that runs TikTok, ByteDance. So they made a deal with Visa that even if someone had canceled their card or changed their card, Visa would give them back the new number so they can continue to charge them. So with this company that belonged to ByteDance, I canceled my membership. 3 months later, I finally checked my credit card balance and they were still charging every month. So I had everyone disputed and I said, cancel my card, or no, sorry. I want to get a new credit card with a new credit card number. They said, that's fine. Just so you know though, all the creditors that are on there currently can actually ask Visa and Visa will give them your new credit card number. I said, wait a second, no. I want to get rid of all these creditors. Now, at the same time, I pay for all of my memberships the month before, the time before, so they get their money up front. I don't want them to charge me anymore. Anyone that I might have forgotten, say like an annual fee. I want them to run out the rest of the year and then be done. They can't charge me again. And I'm not going to get another credit card number because I know that Visa is going to give them the new credit card number. So that later on, oh yeah, I forgot about this annual fee and it shouldn't have been on this one because I just took off my credit card or got a new number for my credit card. But Visa said, hey, I'm under contract with them. They give me extra money in order to get your next number. So I said, you know what? Forget that. Cut me off. I don't want any credit card. And I got rid of my credit cards. Because the credit cards are just in the business to get money from you. Of course, that's how it works. I signed up for it. I know exactly what they're about. And I allowed them to do that. Well, when I found out what they were doing with this extra fee or this extra contracts that they had with other creditors, people that I had already paid up, and now they want another annual fee or another monthly fee. And I said, no, I don't want that. They were going to give them the new number. Now, this actual company that is attached to TikTok, the company that owns that, ByteDance, I had actually canceled them 3 months before, and they had still charged me every month. So I had to dispute those. So hopefully I got those off. I don't know if the credit card company will, because again, I canceled the credit card, so they're not making any more money off me. So I said, you know what? I'm done. Don't charge me anymore. I am through with you and all those other creditors that have a monthly or yearly subscription. I'm done with it. I will pay with my debit card the monthly subscriptions that I want to keep. All the other ones, get rid of them. I don't need them. I don't want them. Get rid of them. So that's what I did. I finally stood up against the credit cards and I said, I'm done with you. I'm not going to be subservient to your annual fees and the people that are doing annual fees that I don't even see them for a whole year. And they just, because I'm not looking, they're going to charge me again. No, you know what? If they want to be charged again, they can come ask me. I'm done with credit cards. So let me show you what's happening with credit cards. The rest of the story when it comes to credit cards. What is happening with credit card debt? Look at that. The consumer credit card debt tops $1 trillion. That wasn't just now. That was in 2023. We're above $1 trillion worth of credit card debt. You know what's happening right now? We have the largest amount of defaults on credit card payments right now. What happens when that happens? People are going to start losing their credit. They won't be able to get houses. They won't be able to get jobs because their credit scores are low. They won't be able to get other loans because their credit scores are low. And what happens? All of a sudden, you have a country that can't pay their debts. You have a country that the people won't be buying new things. You have a economy that is then going to suffer. Here's the thing though, it doesn't end here. Really, it doesn't. It's not even just the record. Watch this. The next one, the total debt balance and its compositions. This is the consumer debt based on trillions. Okay, so if you look here, look at this. Credit cards. That's the $1 trillion. That's just 1 trillion right now that we owe. Okay, so if that's 1 trillion, what the heck is this? Look at that. Mortgages. The amount of debt that we have on mortgages because house prices are going up, skyrocketing. Skyrocketing. Look at this. 2003. This is how much of a mortgage we had. That's how much debt we've continued to accumulate. 2020. It didn't drop at all because, again, people still bought houses. Not when that happened, but their debt stayed the same. People that were in houses stayed in houses. People that were not in houses, they couldn't buy houses. That's why it stayed pretty steady. But look at the tick. Over the last, from 2020 to 2024, well, 2023, it has gone up. What was green? Look at that. HE revolving, oh, no. Sorry, auto loans. HE revolving, I think that's revolving debt. Stuff just like personal lines of credit and such. Look at this, student loans, or sorry, auto loans. This is the auto loans. It continues to increase. We know credit card debts are up. What's the next one? Student loans continuing to increase. Look at that, how small it was compared to now. We don't need a forgiveness of this debt. We need people to wise up and stop going to schools that they can't pay for. Start going to schools you can pay for. And start working on paying it off right away. And then the last one, others. So these are other kinds of debts that are out there. So everyone needs to know that the credit card is not a godsend. God did not make that and send it to us and say, hey, charge away. That just sounds stupid. That sounds totally stupid. Instead, this is what we've been given by companies that, again, are legally and ethically, because there's a lot of people that want credit cards, giving away this money in order for us to get further in debt. Why do we want to get further in debt? We don't. But you know what happens with the more we increase? So it's not the U.S. government. The U.S. government is not just increasing their debt, which they are, but also the consumers. We don't learn. We see the government doing it and we do the same thing. How does that make sense? We're going to have a bigger crash, depending on the presidential election. I'm guessing we will have a bigger crash next year than we've had this whole time. Not next year. In the following few years, than this one, if we keep going down this road. People, wise up. Get your debt in order. pay back your loans. Stop getting into more debt. Because the further and further we get into debt, the harder and harder it becomes to live. That's right. We are literal slaves of the credit card companies, of our mortgage lenders, of our auto lenders, to our other debtors. We're enslaved to them. The more we owe them, the harder it gets for us to pay them off. The harder it gets to pay them off, the more stress we increase, the more anxiety we find, and, sorry to say, the more depression you will see. So 1, go out and serve. Go out and donate. Go do things that will serve others to bring down that. Because if you start getting into debt, you're going to need something to counteract all that stress that you're creating on yourself because of getting into debt. This is the Debt-Free Millionaire podcast. We are here to warn you to stay out of debt. It is not worth it. It'll just cause more stress. It'll cause more struggles within your family. Debt is not the increase of anything in personal life. Now, we will be going into good debt, bad debt a little bit more, but we're talking about personal life. There is no reason to ever try to rack up more debt. There is no good debt and bad debt in personal life. There is bad debt in personal life. Get rid of it. Now, there are mortgages, which you could say is a good debt, except that what we're doing right now, again, this is what we're doing right now with our mortgages. So the more we get into debt for our mortgages, the harder it becomes for us to live. That means the harder you have to work. That means the less vacation time you can take. That means there's more stress in your family. It's not a good thing. This is what happens when you see those credit card debts. Now, okay, I wanted to go to part 2 of this. The second part of this podcast is to tell you I was completely wrong about California. You remember when I was telling you about the $70 million worth of debt, the deficit that they have? Like, here's the budget, here's how much they make. Oh, I was so wrong because I said millions. It is not millions. They owe $70 billion this year. 70 billion with a big fat B, billion dollars this year. They want to spend this much. This is how much they bring in. $70 billion, not million. What was I thinking? Seriously. $70 billion. Could you imagine that? That state is the largest economy than most other countries out there. It's number 5, I think it was. Number 5 in the largest economies in the world. Yet they can't pay their own debts. They also can't get into debt. They can't just print money. The federal government prints money. What's California going to do? They're going to ask for a bailout from the taxpayers in every other state just to bail them out. And why is it? See, I had thought, and this is what I told you, I thought it was because they had too many illegals coming in. That's part of it. I thought it was because of them doing a lot of entitlements. That's part of it. No, it's because of the legislation that they keep passing. They keep passing all these legislations. They keep getting themselves further into debt. Because of what? Because of politics and buying votes. Because they want to help the little guy, but then they forget about the little guy because they have another interest group that they want to please. So because they're doing this, what happens if all of a sudden a hurricane hits California? It doesn't happen much. What about if an earthquake hits California? You think the state's going to be able to afford anything that happens in an emergency? No, they're not. They're going to come to the government to bail them out. But look what they already owe, $70 billion. And as we saw from the graph on that week, it continued to grow over the next 3 years. It wasn't just 70 billion. That's just the first year. It continues to grow. So bringing all this back to what I was talking about at the beginning. Now, again, what was the phrase I was talking about? Expenses grow until we have no more money to feed it. What happens then? We either do two things. One, we wise up, which I hope that they do, and I hope you don't have to wise up because you are already wise to this. Or two, they go bankrupt. What happens if a state goes bankrupt? I don't know. Never happened before. But if a state can't pay their bills, they will go into debt. So there needs to be almost a restructuring of the California market, the California economy, just as much as there needs to be a restructure of the US federal government. Because the more we spend, the less money we have for the entitlements for other things that we've promised. The more debt we owe, the more interest that we owe. The more interest we pay, the less we can pay for the things that we need. Not just wants, because there's a lot of wants there. They're going to keep the wants because they promised it, because they're all politicians. They're going to want to pay for just the needs, which is okay. They need to pay for the needs, but they need to get rid of all those wants that they don't need. And I don't mean dramatic restructuring. Bringing it back to where they just had they had a surplus of like I don't want to give out numbers because I haven't looked it up. I can't remember what it was, but a huge surplus of money in California, and they've gone into a deficit of billion dollars. So please learn from California's mistakes. Learn from everyone else's mistakes. Learn from the federal government's mistakes. Don't get into debt in your personal life. If you do it for the three okay reasons. You have your mortgage because you want to get a house. Now, again, you don't need a house. You can rent for a while. For your education. Oh, wait a second. You don't have to go into large debt to get into an education. There are community colleges everywhere, and get good grades. Get some college classes done before you go into school. Or number 3, transportation. Oh yeah, wait a second. You can take a bus. If you decide you need those 3, let those be the only 3 that you can get. Don't get into credit card debt. It's going to kill you. Don't get into a huge mortgage that you don't need. Get a modest house until you can afford to pay for it. Get a distressed house like I did and pay off all future houses that you go into. I'm in a $360,000 home, and I will sell that house to buy my next house because I can. That's the point. Because I started off very modest. I just got a distressed house. I fixed it up and I sold it. And then I moved somewhere that I could actually afford to live. I'm not saying that's the best for everyone. I'm just saying that this is the way to get out of debt. Don't let your expenses grow more than you can spend. If you do that, you get into debt to pay off your expenses. When you do that, you're going to get into paying interests and having issues with paying off your debt. Okay, so that was a lot to give you. That was week 2, day 4 of our new activity book. So please, when you get this message, when you hear this, look up more information, email us to get Debt Free Millionaire, the book, the personal finance book. This is for not just youth, but also adults. This is for everyone. Become wise in the way of finances. You are not a slave to anyone. No one should have control over you, not even the federal government. The only way of doing that is becoming self-reliant on yourself, which means you have to pay off your debt, which means you have to pay for your expenses. If you can't pay for your expenses, you don't get into the expenses. So, use this. Hopefully this helps. I'm not trying to dictate how you live your life. This is for you to choose. I'm not telling you how to do things. I'm telling you that you have a choice to control your life and not let anyone else control you. But this is the only way you do it. You get out of these things. You don't just make more money because you still owe somebody else. You're still in debt to them. You're still a slave to them. The only way you get out of slavery is to pay it off and get out. And then live a life that you want to live. That's where we're going to get you. That's why we have the Debt Free Millionaire podcast. To make you 100% reliant on yourself and not on anyone else. This is the way that life was supposed to be made. This is the way that you were supposed to live your life. Free. The United States, it's about freedom, not bondage. Thank you so much for listening for this podcast, and we will catch you next time. That's tomorrow. Take care. Bye.